Hello and welcome back. Many of you who followed me here from TikTok have been highly requesting a specific kind of video. So yes, today I will be pole dancing with my penguin. Just kidding. The thing that you guys have been requesting is for me to do a little bit of board game content here. So in keeping with the theme of a booktube channel, but talking about board games, today I'm going to be telling you some of my favorite board games to recommend for people who love to read books. Let's take a look. So right off the bat, I want to talk about Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This is a reading game. Basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to choose a case and then you're going to read through the case almost like you're reading a book, and then you're going to choose different locations to go in order to try and solve the case. And there's so much immersion in this game. Like, there are actual newspapers from the day of the crime, so you can like search for clues in the newspaper. There's a map of London, so you can like, where are we gonna go? Like, you're pulling out a map and actually figuring out where you want to go, because they didn't have Google Maps back in that day. You just had to have a map and be like, oh yes, Martha lives there. So if you're a reader, especially if you like mystery or thrillers or just like classic whodunits like Agatha Christie, this is the board game for you. I often get asked about games that are great for families or even kids. That's why today I'm going to show you Stuffed Fables. So now one thing I will say about Stuffed Fables is that while the themes and the actual story here are very kid-friendly, there is a lot of reading. So I would recommend that there be at least one parent at the table to kind of help facilitate that, especially if reading is something that's still being learned. But what's cool about this game is that this is the storybook, and it's also the board. So as you play, you'll be reading through prompts, kind of reading what's happening, and then your characters will be moving along this board as it lays out on the table. And then as you move into certain areas, certain things will happen in the story, and so the story will keep going, and then you'll flip the pages to go to the next scene. And like I said, the story, the characters, everything that's happening here is very family friendly, and I will mention there are other games by this developer, Plaid Hat Games, which use the exact same kind of storybook, but are more for adults. I will recommend Aftermath, which is essentially this, but about post-apocalyptic mice. So if you like the idea of this, but want something more adult, check out Aftermath. I have definitely recommended this one on TikTok, and I will continue to recommend it, Legacy of Dragonholt. This is the ultimate game for readers. I say this because basically it's a choose your own adventure but built into a game. It's also really cool because as you make decisions, you'll be marking certain things off on a little grid, and essentially what that does is, let's say one of the characters dies, you'll mark something on a grid so that as you go through the story will reflect that that character died. So just like many RPG role-playing games and video games, this game evolves with you as you play it. Now, one thing I will say is you can play this with multiple players, but I do honestly believe it plays best at single player. Legacy of Dragonholt takes the best of RPGs and the best of reading and combines them into something really, really amazing. I highly recommend it. Another one I've recommended on TikTok, and I will continue to recommend, is Gloomhaven. Now, I've done whole videos about Gloomhaven. This is actually the smaller box version, Jaws of the Lion, but there is a larger version, and there's a new one coming out called Frosthaven. These are big box role-playing games. They can be played with 1 to 4 players. The gameplay is essentially that you're using cards in order to program actions and then having your characters move around a board to fight monsters and complete quests. Now, the original Gloomhaven has a board feature that you set up, but this one, much like Stuffed Fables, actually has a storybook. So you'll be reading the story, you'll be following the adventure, and then moving your characters around a board on the other side of the book in order to complete the quest. Gloomhaven also evolves with you. So as you're playing, new things and new missions are going to unlock. So there are actually sealed boxes, sealed envelopes, things like that can't be opened until you complete certain objectives in the game. And as far as replayability goes, Jaws of the Lion only has 25 missions, but the original Gloomhaven has tons of missions. So even though every time you play, you're going to be playing a different mission, you can keep playing and playing and playing and playing. You can play by yourself for a little while. You can throw in some friends at a certain point. It's really made to just play however you want, whenever you want, for as long as you want. So next up, I want to recommend Call to Adventure. Now, this one is less about reading a story and more about creating a story. At its heart, this is a card game, but what you're doing is you're basically creating a hero, giving them an origin and a destiny, and then you're choosing a path for them and then working towards destiny. Now, at the end of the day, you are trying to use these cards to basically build an engine to get enough points to win. But it's really exciting to create this story. And much like many role-playing video games, you'll kind of get to choose, are you a good character? Are you a bad character? And your story will unfold in that way. Now, especially if you love reading, here's an added bonus because Call to Adventure has several expansions now, one of which adds the Name of the Wind and all of the story elements of that into the game. There's another one that just came out which also has the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. So if you love fantasy books, this is a no-brainer because you're essentially going to be crafting your own fantasy story, and you can even use some of your favorite intellectual properties to do it. Arkham Horror, the card game, is what's called a living card game. You'll choose a character, and then you'll have a deck of cards, and you'll be playing through missions that basically have story elements, and depending on how well or not well you do throughout the mission, things are going to happen to your character. You might get permanent injuries, and then how you go into the next mission in the story is based on how well you did in the previous mission. This is a game that adapts the story to you and how you play. There is a buttload of content for this game out. There's tons of expansions. I do not use the term buttload lightly, so. However, the base game, just to try it out, comes with enough stuff to play 2 players. I do think this game plays insanely good at 1 player as well, but you can at least try it, see if you like it, before you invest all that time and money into it. Obviously, I have tons of games that are great for readers because I'm a reader and I have lots of games that I like because I like reading, but this is just a handful of some of my favorites. So make sure to let me know if there's one I didn't mention here in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.